Okay, so this is Nubian Queen of Nubian Queen Podcast Nation. Wait, Nubian Queen Podcast. Nubian Queen Nation Podcast. All right. All right, so I have a special guest with me here today. She's from Absolute Studying. We met online over a year ago, and we've been meeting online at least a couple times a week for a year. So I've
Awesome.
learned so much from her, and I want you to go ahead and just introduce yourself. She's from Canada, so I don't want to mess that up. I'm going to let her introduce herself. Go ahead, Miss Terrell.
Yes, hi there. I am Teryl. I own and operate the website Absolutely Studying.
Mhm.
There, I teach students how to organize their study habits, their lives, so that they can be as productive as possible without getting burnt out and bogged down by stress. I have 17 years in healthcare management, and I woke up one day as a single mother and I just realized there's got to be something more. And I embarked on this journey, and this is kind of where it brought me.
My goodness. And so you have a family. So you're doing, I love how you do your, so she has a YouTube channel and so many other things that she does, but you have a great introductory that I love that you do on YouTube. So if you could do that, like the bootstrap thing, if you don't mind, I love how you do that. I know,
Oh, yeah.
I know I'm kind of putting you on the spot there.
Oh, yes. Here, let me like dust it off. I think it's, but wait, first, I'm Terrell, and this is Absolutely Studying. I bootstrap my way through university while juggling a full-time job and a family. It was tough, and now I want to pay it forward by supplying you the resources and support you need to flourish in your academic career. So that is my story in a nutshell. I bootstrapped my way through university. I decided to only take the courses that I could pay for out of pocket,
Mhm.
so that I was not weighing myself and my son down with a huge financial debt,
Mhm.
and just kind of scrape together the pennies to go back to university.
And you have a very unique degree, if you don't mind. I can't remember exactly what the title is of it, but could you tell us?
It is an integrative and environmental physiology. So basically, what that is I study the process of how biological things work. So it's kind of a step beyond anatomy. So while anatomy might be how red blood cells carry oxygen throughout the blood, what I study is the physiology of that. So how does the oxygen you take in attach itself through the, like it actually in the lungs to the blood or to the red blood cells,
Mhm.
and then what it does in the capillaries and so on in oxygen exchange. So I actually study those processes and not just the anatomy.
That is so interesting to me. And then here you are, you have like teaching people how to study, how to do essays, how to get organized, and like yeah, I just love watching your videos and everything that you have to teach because you're just so dynamic. and,
Thank you so much.
and you have a son who's in his 20s and a baby. Like,
Yes.
oh my goodness.
Yes.
And a husband.
Yes.
So you're just doing it all. You're just doing it all.
I have a very deliberate time in or a deliberate way to schedule my time, and I only take on as much as I could. So it took me a little while to be able to have a second child, because I wanted to be able to focus all of my time and energy on my first son and then on my academic career. And now I finally have, now that I'm decided to build an actual company, I thought it's time to slide in a second one before it's too late.
Oh my goodness. So the term that my kids over here would say is you're doing the most. I mean, you are just absolutely doing the most, but I love it. And I love being in like, getting to follow you and shadow you and learn so much from you. Um
Thank you so
so
much.
so how long have you had your absolute studying? Like where did that concept come up from?
Absolutely studying actually came out of my own struggles in university. Like I said in the introduction, I bootstrapped my way through university. So I was working a full-time job and I had my son. So I had X number of hours a day that I had to work. I had X number of hours a day I had to parent. And so that only left a handful of hours left over.
Mhm.
And one of the biggest misconceptions about going back to school, and it was one that I had because I thought I was an intelligent person. I thought I would catch on super quick, especially being a mature student going back to university.
Mm-hmm.
So when I actually went to university and I discovered that it is expected and courses are designed for you to spend 2 hours at home for every 1 hour you spent in class.
My goodness.
And there's not very many ways to knock this down. That's what is expected of you. Not only that is they don't teach you in university. They introduce the information and they tell you what you have to learn and what you have to know, but it's on you to go home and actually learn it and pound it in, because you learn something one class and it may never be discussed again, but you had better believe it's going to be on that exam.
Right,
so
right.
It's all on you to learn this information.
Mm.
So in my process of trying to find the most effective and efficient study methods, I did a lot of research on my own, looking up different classes and going out and watching different lectures at different schools and different tutorials on YouTube. And there was a lot of information for high school students. There was a lot of information for younger kids. But when you got to a certain threshold of information, and that's probably around the second year of university, it starts really getting thin. It gets thin on what is expected for you to learn. It gets thin on information resources and looking up tutorials on how, the Krebs cycle works. And it was harder and harder to find the information I need to really get a good grasp on the concepts that I had to learn. And so I just started out with a blog. It started out just as a blog of me, saying what I wish was out there and kind of sharing some of my ideas and how I studied and my study methods. And it just really snowballed from there into eventually a YouTube channel, right, and a tutorial series, and then principles and workbooks and published books and it kind of just took on a life of its own.
And checklist, and you just have you have all these resources, not all free, but you do have a lot of resources. And yes, oh my goodness, and you post like weekly. I mean, weekly to your YouTube page.
Yes, I have a few things that I post now. My YouTube is getting bigger as well. I have weekly live goal setting sessions on Fridays where I just sit down and chat with whoever wants to come down about setting goals and achieving goals, and let's just sit here and do this together, have a little plan with me. Every Thursday I put out an edited tutorial, and I've been more and more trying to do more kind of workshop like things on Wednesdays, Tuesdays or Wednesdays. So I'm up to about 3 times a week now, and it's so much fun.
It's a good thing that your hubby likes to cook. I just know that from you, that your hubby likes to cook.
Oh yeah. we had an understanding when we started dating that I don't like cooking. And so I told him, I will cook for you and you can have anything you want in the frozen food aisle. And then he's like, you know what, I will take care of the cooking. And he makes delicious things from scratch all the time that I thoroughly enjoy.
Yes, you're spoiled, but in a good way. In a good way. That's always a good thing. So I just love that. So let's see. So you have all these different things that you're doing. And I mean, you might not want me to say it, but you even work like an office manager and something to do with pharmaceutical. I mean, you're just like, I don't even know how you have time to even sleep. I mean, let alone as gorgeous as you do today. You're just doing it all. Like I said, you're just doing it all.
Yes. I also run a telemedicine healthcare company, a virtual healthcare company. So that is also quite exciting.
Too much. So I just love how you, in all the things that you're doing, you still have time to like map out. You're a person who maps out like 6 months in advance, or even to a whole year of your content, of what you're going to say, what you're going to do. You have it all. I mean, how do you come up with all these things and keep yourself organized?
Batching. It's all about batching and organizing your time and really having an understanding and a vision. Once absolutely studying started taking on a mind of its own, it became bigger than me. And it became a situation of what do my students, what do they need to know? What do they want to know? What am I best suited to share with them?
Mm-hmm.
And that kind of is what really guides things.
Mm-hmm.
So I will go through, and it's very important for me to be able to deliver concise bits of information. People come to you with specific questions. And so instead of putting out a tutorial or a lecture full of 5 or 6 different concepts, I really narrow it down to one.
Mm-hmm.
So that helps, because when people are looking for information, they're looking for information to answer one question. I might pose other questions in that tutorial for one thing, but then I'll also give them the guides or the resources, or point them in the direction if they're interested in researching those things further.
Mm-hmm.
But if you're coming to me with one question, I'm going to answer that one question. So that really does flesh out a lot of the material.
Mm-hmm.
People want to know how to use their planners. And so using your planner and how to best organize your planner is one thing. How to set goals and break those down is another thing. And so there's so many questions. There's so many different concepts to break down and explain that the content really writes itself.
Well, you're a word person, because I know even with you working with me, I'm like, I don't just keep it short, and you just have words, and just words, they just flow from you, just like you're just a fountain of a wealth of words, and you just love words. I can just tell. And then you take your content, and then you make your YouTube channel, and you have all these little cute little clips, and then you turn it into your blog, and then you turn it into posting things onto your Instagram. So I just love how you just make it work so harmoniously.
Well, people take in information in different ways. Some people want a visual medium. Some people just want to listen to it. And some people are like, no, I want to be able to read through, skim through. So I try to make sure that my tutorials, my information is in those different formats. Some people just want the list from the Instagram, so they might just get the hot list on the Instagram. And if they want more information, they'll go to the website and check out the article. Sometimes they want to print it off and take it with them. So just making information as accessible as possible is really one of my passions for my students.
So it's just phenomenal. I'm so happy that I finally get a chance to catch up with you, and for us to actually do this interview. What else would you like to share? Because you wrote a book, it's on Amazon, and I mean, seriously, what else would you like to know too?
I love writing. And so my book kind of came out from one of those stories. When I was little, I loved writing, and I loved writing short stories. And that was my favorite class, was English class, when you got to write. And I remember like writing and my being like, I want a writer one day, and I want to be a writer one day. And I remember my parents were like, you're not going to be a writer. Like, let's be honest. Like, maybe you should consider marrying rich, but being a writer is probably not in your skill set. And I remember even I was convinced I was going to be a writer, and I wrote this short story, and I still remember it so vaguely. It was like this sci-fi post-apocalyptic story about these 3 kids. I put my heart on the paper. And I handed it in, and I was so excited because I was going to get this great feedback from the teacher. I could feel it. And I got it back, and I did not. The teacher hated the story. I think I got like a C- on it. I don't even remember why he hated it. I don't even think I read the comments of why he hated it. I just know that I did not get the A+, like 100% that I wanted on this story. Mm-hmm. And I think I was probably in like 6th or 7th grade. Like I was pretty young. So I kind of threw that idea away. And like, I'm obviously, I'm never going to be a writer. I need to just, put that away, and never visited it again. And I remember I had actually built up almost a phobia of writing, to the point where by the time I got to 9th grade, I remember sitting in class in 9th grade. Mm-hmm. And the teacher told us, we're going to read Romeo and Juliet, and then we're going to write an essay about this. And this is the first time I had to write an essay. I knew kind of what an essay was, and I knew it was something to be feared. And I had a full-on panic attacks. I was so afraid of having to write this essay.
I can't even imagine.
And so now fast forward, in university, I finally got to write papers and stuff like that. And I learned how to really capitalize on what the rubric was and the instructions and everything. And I learned the formula of how to ace my papers and my classes. And I had gotten 100% on tons of papers, and I had gotten it down to literally a formula.
Wow.
So now I love writing. I love writing. I love writing my essays. I loved writing assignments in school. And so I wrote a book about writing essays. And I really thought that that was just the perfect symmetry and level of pettiness. Like, I love being a petty queen. And I thought that would be the perfect kind of period. I told you so to my parents, my teachers in school. Like, I'm going to write and publish a book on essay writing, and that's going to be my thing. And you cannot take that away from me.
That's what you did, and that is
I did.
That is
So yes, it's available on Amazon. It's called The Easiest Essay. It is a literal step-by-step guide, and I write it just as if I'm sitting right there with you. Like, come on, girl, we're gonna write this essay. We're gonna get an A. We're gonna do this together, you and I. And it's very, very comprehensive.
So you in words, I love it, because I can tell it just oozes out of you. You just love what you do, and so it just transfers onto the paper. And you're really good at having people follow you, and you have your email list, and like I said, all your things to me they're just working together harmoniously, and that's what I love about you. And the fact that you have more than one email, one yes. business, and you have YouTube, and you have there's just so many things that I can just keep going on and on. But what do you do for fun? That's what I want to know. What do you do for fun?
Oh, there are funny stories. I do enjoy my work so much that it is fun for me.
That's what I know.
But that's not the question. What do I do to disconnect and unwind? I play video games. I love video games. I love escaping into a fantasy world and playing them. I'm a massive follower of JRPGs. I love Final Fantasy, the entire series. That is what I do for fun.
Now, I don't know that much about the JPRs. What do you say? What was it called? JP?
JRPGs, Japanese role-playing games.
Oh, okay,
it's like a Final Fantasy. Right now, I'm deep into Final Fantasy 14. I played Final Fantasy 11. I started with 7. That was my first one. I played 7, skipped 8, 9, 10, skipped 12, 13. Like, I love me some Final Fantasy.
Now, and those, you actually posted those to YouTube, so if somebody wanted to go and find it, those are actually, don't you have some of those games, or
I think I have on like an old channel. I did kind of play with some play online with my Final Fantasy 14. I also play a lot of Sims.
That's what I was waiting for. That's what
a lot of Sims. On my stream, I do sometimes post so I also do some one-on-one coaching. And so I do sometimes post Sims content on my page, and on it I emulate one-on-one coaching. So what if this Sim were my student, what would I say? What would I do? What kind of advice would I give them? So that's I found is a really useful tool for people who are really nervous about coaching and what exactly it looks like.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. So I even though I'm not a university student, I just love all your content. So if there's somebody out there, they're thinking, oh my goodness, I'm not in school, so I'm not sure. You have so many things on organization, on yes. how to, just you just break it down and you make it simple and you make it plain. So that's why I like to follow you. And I think that anybody who's listening, if you're a university student, she has lots of content for you there, but also just everyday household organizing, your brain too. Sometimes you have to sit down and you have to put like brain dump, get all the stuff out yes. of your mind. And I think you have something for everybody.
Definitely. Yes, one thing that I really struggled with growing up that I did not know. I didn't even know it was a thing when I was growing up. It wasn't ever talked about. But I grew up, I have ADHD and dyslexia. So my brain often has always been just a real dumping ground of chaos. And so over the years, I've kind of learned how to use that as one of my strengths. I've learned how to sit down and really organize myself and my life, writing things down, separating them, making to-do lists, committing to finishing a task before I start another one. Because otherwise I was that kid in the class that just roamed the classroom all day, and I was stuck inside getting in trouble for, kind of roaming around, but I couldn't control it. And when we were growing up, that was not a thing, right? It was just, you're bad and you don't listen.
Right.
And same thing with even, I was an early reader, but my brain worked differently, and I couldn't quite figure it out. And it even turned into when I was in, I think about 4th grade, I switched from a French immersion school to an English school, and they actually had to send me to ESL, despite the fact that my entire family, our primary language is English. Just because, working in English alone, it was a huge setback to me, because my brain just didn't work the same as everybody else's. So
that's amazing to me too, because sorry to cut you off, because I've known you for over a year, and I didn't even know that until a couple weeks ago. You said that you had that, and I was like, you have what? Like, I didn't, because you manage it so well now. You've been doing it for so long that nobody would know it unless you said it,
Yes, and I notice it, and I still can kind of catch it when I start getting tired. You can see, but yeah, it's one of those things that a lot of people just don't even realize, especially like in my generation and like older generations, they don't realize, because it didn't have a name when we were growing up. It was just, you're having problems and there's something wrong with you.
Right.
But finding out,
they would give you medication to calm you down, right?
Exactly. But now there's all of these children who are being diagnosed earlier, so much earlier than we were, when it was just, you just need to have the self-control. Well, if you were aware of these different things, then you don't necessarily need the medication. Some people do, but you can also make the plan. You can make a plan that you can follow through, and you can make it so much more bite size. And I think that helps both neurotypical and as well as myself.
Awesome. Jeez. So I don't even know what else we can talk about. I mean, this, like I said, we've been meeting, and how can somebody get a hold of you? Because you also have a Facebook page, right?
Yes, I do have a Facebook group. That one is called that's Hustle, Organize, and Live Your Potential with Teryl Celeste. You can always check me out on my website, www.absolutelystudying.com. I have all of the socials, Instagram at Absolutely Studying, or you can email me directly at Teryl, Teryl, at absolutelystudying.com. So I am all over the web.
I so appreciate your time.
It was my pleasure.
So, and you look beautiful. I have to say, I wasn't, but you and we're diagnosed with, well, we've been under the weather. I'll just say it that way. We've both been under the weather, and so and so thank you for. You look sunny and shiny. You don't even look like you've been under the weather at all. But I'm trying to cut back on over here on my schools. So again, thank you for this time, and I so appreciate it. All right.
It's my pleasure.
All right then. So I'm going to pause it here, and remember to go and check her out over on Instagram, and check her out on her YouTube page. And like she said, we'll put all of her information down in the comment section so you can contact her if you need to. All right. So thanks for all that. Until next time, you're with Nubian Queen, a Nubian Queen Nation podcast. Peace and blessings.